Dandasana, staff pose. Jane is sitting on the floor with her legs out in front of her and her hands in her lap. Her back has bowed, collapsing her chest, her knees are bent, and her feet have rolled out. It looks as if she's sitting on her sacrum and using her head for balance. She doesn't look very comfortable and would have trouble holding this pose for very long. Let's have her make some changes. First, Jane wants to stretch her legs, rolling her thighs in so her toes point toward the ceiling. She wants to draw her legs together so they point straight ahead. Then Jane wants to pull up her kneecaps and flex her feet while keeping her heels on the floor. Next, Jane wants to lift her kneecaps toward her hips as she stretches her calves toward her heels. She wants to lift her pelvis and sit on the middle of her sits bones. The bottoms of Jane's feet have curled toward each other. Instead, she wants to stretch the insides of her legs toward her feet as she pulls the outside of her thighs toward her hips. Then she needs to lift her torso, roll her shoulders down and back, and lift her head. Finally, Jane places her hands on the floor next to her hips with her fingers pointing toward her toes and looks straight ahead. In Dandasana, Jane wants to recapture her posture from Tadasana. She wants her back erect with her head balanced above her hips, her upper arms rolled out, her chest lifted, and her shoulders broad. Let's watch Jane's skeleton in Dandasana. As we look at Jane's initial pose, we can see how she's rocked back on her sacrum. Her chest is collapsed, her head is forward, and her legs are limp. The longer she sits in this position, the further she will collapse. As Jane rolls her legs in and stretches out through her heels, we can see a slight lift to her pelvis. She wants to draw her legs together as she stretches the insides of her legs toward her feet. Then she wants to lift her kneecaps as she stretches her calves toward her heels. Next, Jane wants to bring her pelvis upright. This will move weight toward the front of her sits bones. Jane wants to continue this lift up her spine and through the top of her head. Placing her hands on the floor with her fingers pointing forward helps Jane broaden across her chest and keep her shoulders down. As she lifts her head and looks straight ahead, we can see how Dandasana is much like Tadasana.